to Final Resonance TV in episode number 26 with Steve Brown, y'all, from Trixter, Tokyo Motor Fist, Rubix Kube, Rock of Ages, Dennis DeYoung, and sometimes Def Leppard.
There you go. That's a lot of bands, man. But yeah, great to be on your show, Jeff. And here we are, July 10th, and we unleashed the lions onto the world today. So I'm very happy, very happy. Spent a lot of time in this studio making this record, so I'm glad that the world's finally going to hear it.
Yeah, it's a great album. I've had about 3 or 4 days to listen to it, man. It's really got a bunch of hooks, and like Mutt Lang says, all killer, no filler.
Right, that's for sure, man. Hey, I learned from the best.
You're dang right. He's awesome, right? I got to, what's funny about you is I have a connection with you from way back in the 90s. You guys Trixter came to a place called Sloss Furnace in Birmingham, Alabama, and we were doing backline for you. I used to work in a music store there in town, and we got the call for backline, and I was your backline guy that night, and brought my rig down and got you to play my MP1 and my 412 cabinets.
Holy shit. Now, was that a radio show? Was that a radio show we did with Brother Kane? And what's his name? Another guy, a solo artist who wrote some songs with David Lee Roth. I remember that.
Yeah, Damon Johnson's a good friend of mine from Brother Kane.
I love Damon. Yeah, he's an old friend, too. One of the most talented guys on the planet. I love Damon.
Yeah, so I actually teched for you that night, and you used my rig that night. So it's been a long time, but I thought I'd
bring dude, that's great.
Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
It's crazy.
Robbie Neville was the other guy who was on that show.
Okay, yeah.
Robbie Neville.
That's right. So you're friends with Phil Schaus, who's a friend of mine from this area. He lives right down the road, or his family lives right down the road from me. And, of course, Greg Renoff, who's another guest on my show. Phil and Greg both were. So glad to have another Van Halen freak on my show.
Oh, totally, man. I love it. Just let me fix my do-rag here. I got an online show tomorrow night, so I'm going to be dyeing the hair black again. But, it's the first time, I'm going to say 20 years. I usually have to dye my hair like every 3 weeks. So first time in 20 years, I've gone 3 months without dyeing my hair. So at least I'm saving what's left.
That's right, brother. So that's Rubik's Cube, right? Tomorrow
night. Yeah, it is, man. Yeah. So looking forward to that.
Tell me about that band you have, Rubik's Cube. What is that like? That's an 80s tribute?
Yeah, it's an 80s tribute extravaganza show that we do, and it's a lot of fun. I've been in the band for almost 8 years now, and we fly all over the world and do these amazing corporate parties and private parties and play these great shows and celebrating the 80s, man. And we get dressed up. We do a full, unlike, it's not like a metal school type thing where it's all 80s hard rock. It's every version of the 80s, which is really cool because I'm playing songs that I never played before, some of the 80s new wave stuff, and it's just great material. And we have a great band, Sherry and Scott are dual singing tag team right there. They're incredible, and they do the costumes, get dressed up like Cher, like Michael Jackson, Freddie Mercury, whatever was great in the 80s. We can do it all. And PJ Farley's playing in the band with me now, and it's just been incredible. It's been a fun ride.
I saw you had the Bill and Ted's telephone booth.
Yeah. Do.
That's awesome, bro. So today is the big release day for your album, and it's Ted Foley from Danger, Greg Smith, and Chuck Berge with you. This thing, man, it's full of great hooks, and it's very positive. Young Blood, Around Midnight, Lions, Sedona had some killer riffs in it, bro. I love that. Winter Takes It All, Dream Your Heart Out. I mean, this is all great stuff. This positivity that you have, just the general positivity you have, where do you think that comes from, man? Just from your whole career as it went, or the Van Halen thing where you're always smiling? It's the Van Halen thing.
Yeah, man. Well, it's the way I was raised. I come, from a great family. My parents, my brothers, growing up in Providence, New Jersey. And yeah, I'll go back to where it started, 1978. It was Kiss Rock and Roll Over and Van Halen 1. And those two records changed my life forever. It got me, starting to play guitar and on a path that I've continued ever since. And I've been blessed, man, a million times over. I've never had to work a day job. I play rock and roll for a living. I got a beautiful house here and, beautiful studio. And again, the positive vibes are just what I like to exude, as far as what rock and roll gave me as a kid. Listening to Kiss, Van Halen, Def Leppard, Bon Jovi. Look, growing up in the 70s and 80s was the best time in the world for music, and especially for hard rock. You were there, I was there, dude, and you know what? I still remember it. I don't like that joke. If you remember the 80s, you weren't there. I was in the 80s, and I was partying, but I remember every fucking show, every party like it was yesterday. And, man, that's probably why I play in an 80s tribute band, because I wish I was still in the 80s.
Yeah, man. Well, I started one, too, in the last year, and I love it, man. People really get it. They really get it, and they come out and support it. So the tribute band thing's been really big over the last, 5 so years. It's really grown. So.
It is, man, and it's a beautiful thing that we can go back and we celebrate those times. And look, so for me, songwriting-wise, I want people to be able to escape like I did. When I would listen to a Kiss record or Van Halen, I would be on another planet, right, feeling good,
right,
and that's what I always do, and that's what I did with Trixter. Look, when I started Trixter in 1983, I was 12 years old. After seeing Van Halen at Madison Square Garden, October 12th, 1982, on the Diver Down tour, that was when I discovered that rock can be fun and it can be like a party. Right. And because before that, my first concert was Kiss. And seeing Kiss is the greatest thing in the world, but that was unreal to me. Right. So to see Van Halen, I went, I can do that, and I want to do that, and I'm going to do that. And it was about incorporating that feel-good, the way Roth and Ed, made it like a party. And the band, it was like, fuck, man, beer cans and bras getting drunk. I'm like, I want that. And, so I modeled Trixter as much as I could. I tried to model like a Van Halen thing, when we were on tour back in the 90s and 91 and whenever. Our intro was, I stole it from Van Halen. I told my guitar tech, you say the one, the only, the mighty, Trixter. And that was, pretty much a salute to Van Halen, because here we were, 7 or so years into our career, and we're playing arenas in front of 20,000 people with the Scorpions and with Poison and with Warrant and with Kiss.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. You had mentioned in another interview about meeting Eddie Van Halen at the NAMM show, right? 91?
Yeah.
Well, I got a surprise for you. You want to say this?
I do.
I was there, too, in 91, and I was standing in front of Ed when he walked past me, and I was probably 22 or 23, and he started to reach out to shake my hand. This is my one opportunity to meet Eddie Van Halen, right? And I froze, dude. I couldn't move. And then he walks past me, walks off the stage. So anyway, I met him in 2015 at the thing at the Smithsonian, though. I did meet him eventually. But back then, I took some pictures of that night. And I have this frame.
Well, that's it, man.
You see it?
I do. I love it. I have that musician magazine, and I remember it very, very well. I have the invitation framed back here, the thing for Biff's Ball or whatever.
Right.
I have the thing, and that was incredible. I'll never forget it. So, well, cool. You were there.
I was there, bro. I was down front row.
And that was a strange thing that, meeting Ed for the first time was just incredible. And, it was lucky for me because he kind of knew who I was. Yeah. Because we were number one on MTV. And when I met him, the cool thing was Matt Bruck introduced me to him. And he looked at me and, he came in. I thought it was just so cool, man. He came in and met everybody and he just introduced himself to all the guys. And he goes, hi, I'm Ed. He just said to everybody, I'm Ed. And I was like, that is so fucking cool. And then he came up to me and Matt introduced me. And Ed goes, Trixter, he's like, who are you on tour with? I go, we're going on tour with the Scorpions in 2 weeks. And he goes, oh shit, I just heard your commercial. You're playing at the Irvine Meadows. And we just started laughing and it was just unreal. But what was interesting about that, you saw that show when he played, right, with Steve Morse and Albert Lee?
Yeah.
It was kind of weird, man, because Steve Morse and Albert Lee kind of took over, and Ed was left in the dust. It was like the first time that I saw how when you hear about how some guitar players, they're great in their own sandbox, if you will,
Sure.
But when you take them out of that, their chord shapes, they're not as good, and it was surprising. I mean, it was pretty incredible. And I remember I was hanging out with Jeff Watson from Night Ranger, and we were both looking at each other. I mean, that was the first night I ever saw how really incredible Steve Morse was as a guitar player, and it is.
Oh, yeah.
And I've done things with him. I just did Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp. He's one of my favorites. But Albert Lee completely blew my mind that night. He was just off the charts.
Amazing, right?
Yeah, but that's cool. I'm glad you got that. And, hey, man, it's not so easy sometimes meeting your heroes. But, at least you were there.
And I got it done in 2015. Like I said, it took me 30 years. But
And I want to say, I'd love for you, if you could, man, send me some of those photos if you have them scanned. I'd love to have some of those.
Sure, I'd love to give them to you. You remember that night. Yeah, it was awesome. So let's see. Dennis DeYoung was on your latest release on Lions, right?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Well, I don't know if you know, but for the last 5 years or so, I've been filling in Dennis DeYoung's band. I filled in for both of his great guitar players, August Zadra and Jimmy Leahy, my brothers. So Dennis has become a really, really good friend of mine over the last couple of years. And playing with him, I was not a Styx fan. Growing up, I was a Van Halen, Kiss, all that other stuff. I liked Styx. I appreciated them, but I didn't know how great they were until I had to learn the catalog. So learning all these incredible songs, The Best of Times, Sweet Madam Blue, Miss America, the Tommy Shaw song that I had to sing, Blue Collar Man and Renegade. And playing that stuff, I became the biggest Styx fan, and of course I became such a huge Dennis DeYoung fan. And the song Best of Times really struck me every night playing it. I got to play it in both guitar spots, so especially his live version. I said to myself, I need to write a song like this. I want to write a song that's like epic, that has that Best of Times thing, Bohemian Rhapsody, something daring, bold. And that's what I think I did with Lions. So I gave Dennis credit for helping inspire me to write that song. So I went one step further. I was thinking, I'm like, man, I don't want a boring guitar solo. As much as I love playing guitar and I love, the shred guitar thing and rocking, I was kind of like, this song needs something unique and special. And I was like, why don't I ask Dennis to play a synth solo? Kind of like what he did on Fooling Yourself, the classic Dennis DeYoung. I sent him my demo of the song. Not really a demo. I do like finished masters. But I sent him it, and he was like, Steve, this is a great song. And he goes, what do you want me to do? And I'm like, I want you to be you and give me one of those things. So in December of 2019, I was on tour with, I play in this band, the Wizards of Winter, which is like a Trans-Siberian Orchestra type thing.
Right.
We were playing in Chicago. We had a couple days off, and I said, I'm going to be there. Can I come over? I'll bring my Pro Tools rig. I have a little rig with me on the road. And he's like, sure, come to the house. Bring your guys. I brought Greg Smith, my bass player, and I brought Scott and Sharon Kelly, who are the band leaders and creators of Wizards of Winter. So they came with me. Scott Kelly is the biggest Dennis DeYoung fan. He actually saw Styx when they were playing high schools.
Oh, wow.
Before anything. So Scott told Dennis that story, and he was like blown away. So long story short, we get there, get set up, and Dennis goes, hey man, go in the back of my car. He sends Scott up and to get this keyboard out, and he wound up bringing down Dennis's original Oberheim 8 OV8 keyboard. It's the same keyboard that Eddie Van Halen used on Jump, right. The classic 80s. It was the original one that Dennis used. He just had it repaired, and that's what he played the solo lines. It's a mono keyboard track, and he was showing us he still had the masking tape on it with all of his Styx presets from the live shows and everything. So he goes, yeah, check this out. He presses a button. He starts Too Much Time on My Hands. There's the sound. He hits another button, the Fooling Yourself solo. There it is. It was fucking unreal. It was so cool. And he did about 5 takes, and on the 5th take is pretty much what you hear on the record.
Yeah,
So
that's a great song, man. There's some really cool stuff on that album, man. I was just blown away by it. Really, the production. Did you do all the production yourself?
I did, man. I produce everything here in the Mojo Vegas in Ringwood, New Jersey.
Yeah.
And what's really cool is on this record, I knew when we were about halfway done, we had something extra special. And getting back to Dennis, we always talk about songwriting because I've had some hits and sold millions of records. And so Dennis told me, he said, Steve, you write a lot of songs, a lot of them are good, but every once in a while you get one that's just a cut above the rest. And I did that back in the past. Give It To Me Good, One in a Million, those are ones. But on this record, I knew something was extra special. And so I knew sonically I wanted to go to a higher place. So I brought in my sometimes bandmate and my neighbor, Bruno Ravel from Danger Danger and the Defiance, to mix it, because Bruno is hands down one of the most talented, underrated talents in the music business. Incredible producer, bass player, songwriter. He does a lot what I do, kind of a one-man, wrecking machine that we make records here and,
right.
And that, so I brought him in and he basically set up all the mixes, mixed it at a studio, and I came in and him and I tweaked the final mixes, but without him, this record would not be as great as it is, and I got to give a big shout out to him, and also was mastered by the great Maor Applebaum out in LA. It's the first time I've used an outside mastering guy for the last couple of years. My dear friend Jim DeSalvo, who's mastered for the last 20 years, he's mastered every record I've ever done. Sadly, he passed last year. So he's the first time I've used a different mastering engineer in over 20 years. And Maor just did a fantastic job. So I knew that this record was extra special, and I knew we had to take it to another place. And I think that's what we did.
Yeah, the mix is killer, man. Every bit of it's awesome.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
The background vocals that you did were, like you were talking about the Mutt Lang thing. You were talking about that in another interview. You got it, bro. You whatever you stole, where you got that from Phil or wherever you got that from, you got it, bro. That was it.
Well, hey, man, the shout out to the Def Leppard camp. I've been with them for 8 years now, and I've been friends with them since I was a little kid, and everything I do is based on that. Like making all my records, I say all the time, what would Van Halen do? What would Eddie do playing-wise? And then sonically, I go, what would Def Leppard and what would Mutt Lang do? And as long as I have that and I go, oh, that's what they would do, I know I'm okay. And it's just what I love, man. I love those big vocals with the big harmonies and, multi-stack, multi-track, that rich, lush. Hey, man, and it's a lot of sugar. Def Leppard's got the sugar. Tokyo Motor Fist has got the syrup, if you know what I mean. It's sweet. You love to eat it, man. Ear candy,
Definitely ear candy on it. Hey, one of the things I wanted to ask you about Eddie besides that was, what we talked about, is you went to 5150.
Yeah.
So I know a few people who've been. Let's see. Eric Dover was one of my friends. You know Eric?
I know Eric, of course.
Eric was at that private party singing. In the backyard, right? He was actually my last guest on the show just a few days ago. Of course, Damon's been there to 5150. You've been there, so tell me about what guitars you got to play and what happened inside 5150.
Well, man, what was cool about that was it was in the January of 1991, and it was right when Trixter was renegotiating. We renegotiated $1 million record deal. So I went out to LA with my manager and our late great attorney, Alan Mintz, and we negotiated. I was in the negotiation rooms because I was a big part of the business of the band and every decision that was made. So they wanted me there. And we played them some of the new tracks that I did. I did, 3 songs, Power of Love, Runaway Train, and Road of 1,000 Dreams. I produced these they weren't demos. They were finished masters just to say, this is what we got. And they signed off. We got a $500,000 advance and a $500,000 recording budget to make the hero record.
Right.
And next day, Matt invited me up to 5150, man, and it was just like, I couldn't believe it. Here I was going up to 5150, and I'd known Ed and hung with him a couple times, but that was the first time going to the house. And it was just incredible, man. I got to play all the guitars. Of course, luckily I got to play the black and yellow Charvel. That's with Dimebag now.
Right.
And every other one and every amp. And then, the one really cool thing, and I don't think anybody can say this, and I don't want to I don't want to pat myself on the back or talk too much, but I got to go into the house. I was in Ed's house,
right.
And where he's got the racquetball court, and that was pretty cool, man. And seeing when I had to take a leak, and it was pretty cool going into the bathroom, and Valerie had one of her one day at a time chairs, like those movie actor chairs with her name on it, right. And I was sitting there taking a leak, looking at that, and I'm going, holy shit, man. I just signed $1 million record label, and here I am taking a piss in Eddie Van Halen's house.
Wow.
You know, and it's been unbelievable, man. Ed is there. You go, brother.
You see this? All right. You see that?
You got it, dude. I love it.
That's the new Stripe series, one that just came out.
I don't have one yet. So
I know.
I got a call. Over there.
Yeah, you did.
So that was something else. And, the thing about 5150 is most people, I think most real fans know now, it's really small.
Yeah.
Like it's fucking the control room is tiny and,
right.
But it magic, man. And I'm reading Greg's great book, the Ted Templeman book, for the third time now because I can't get enough. And it's funny hearing Ted Templeman's, his assessment of 5150, how small it was. The control room was like, it's not much bigger than what I have here in my house, Right. And I remember when I told Ed that I'm building my studio in my house, he's like, oh, you're making a demo studio? I said, no, wasn't that what you said 5150 was going to be? And look what it turned out. I said, no, man, I'm going to be making all my records here. And I said, yours is 5150, but I call this, it's everybody knows it as the Mojo Vegas Recording Company, but it's also AKA 6160, if you know what I mean.
Right.
I don't know what that means, but it sounds cool.
That is cool. So tell me, I know you got to get on to your next thing. Def Leppard and playing with those guys at Hershey Park. I watched that video. Was that the first or you had done stuff for Vivian before, but not for Phil?
Yeah, so that was 6 years into my tenure. It started out in 2013, filling in for Vivian, and that went on. And that was, when I filled in for Vivian, that was in the works for a long time. I went out on tour with them on the Kiss and Def Leppard tour in 2014, did sound checks, and, just got the feel for everything. And I've known the guys for 20 plus years already. I mean, I was family. They're family to me. Phil is like my older brother, and, I love them dearly, and same for Joe and Sav and Rick and Viv. But Phil's situation was, he had a big family emergency, and, I had a very little time to kind of switch to go to the other side of my brain and learn all of Phil's parts. And luckily, playing in Rubik's Cube, I knew the photograph solo, and I knew Rock of Ages. And look, man, it always helps when you're filling in a band that they're your favorite band. Sure. So the music is a part of my DNA. It's in my blood, like Van Halen, like Kiss, like Bon Jovi. It's in me. So I didn't have to think about it, but it was hard because I had to go for different vocal parts. I had to go to lower registers, sometimes higher. So it was a challenge, but like I tell everybody, dude, I had like 24 hours to learn everything, work on all those parts. I slept for probably 2 hours, so I had 22 hours of solid work. By the time I went on stage in Hershey Park, I was putting liquid skin on my fingers because I played so much. But, man, got out there in front of 27,000 people and hit a grand slam. Joe and Sav, who were pretty much, the heart and soul of Def Leppard, man, afterwards, They came to me and said, yeah, it was amazing. They didn't think, they were worried, man. I know Joe was, up until we got through the first couple songs, he was a little concerned, but as soon as we got through the first 3 songs, he was happy, man. We were doing shots of Jameson in the quick change booth by the time we were halfway done with the show.
Wow, man. Well, let me just finish this up on your new record. It's out today, everybody. Y'all need to go check this out. It's an awesome collection of songs, man. Really, congratulations on putting it out there. And hopefully at some point you and I will connect again on the Van Halen thing. I'll try to send you some stuff.
Yeah, likewise, man. And for all the VH fans out there, I want you to, and look, this is my new 5150 series
Yeah.
that I used a lot on the record. Listen to the song Decadence on 10th Street. That's the one. Totally, Bruno and I, we went for VH 1978, tried to get the tone exact. I used my Phase 90, my 5150. It's for all the Van Halen fans out there, it's total Ed VH at his best. And me, you know, kind of a nod to, you know, Aerosmith, Van Halen, a little extreme in there. All the guitar nuts. I think you're going to go nuts over this one. So, Jeff, thanks for having me on, and I'll talk to you guys soon.
Yeah, have a good rest of the day, brother.
Thanks, man.
Rock on.
See ya.
See you, bud. Bye-bye.
Cheers.